Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 5th of July. I hope everyone had a great 4th of July holiday. Futures in the overnight market really didn't change all that much. We had a nice little pop up to the 23%, faded right back. That was the same thing that happened in the futures in the 4th. But you can see the difference here. Magenta popping up. So there's potential that we could see some value turnaround. And of course, that 38.44 becomes significant because that becomes a turnaround point going above key resistance here. And I think that's critical. Not to mention we have that strong dip of the orange here in this particular case. So as below 7.5, that's definitely a point. And the fact that we're at the 23%, certainly worth noting. We're also looking at relatively higher shakeout histogram with higher lows in this construct, so it's consistent with that. But it wouldn't take much for a turnaround P2 event, which you can already see popping in at this particular stage, which is basically the second move. And this is exactly kind of what we talked about before, that we would expect that the first attempted bounce wouldn't succeed. We'd come back. The question would be, would we come all the way back to the lows of breakdown, or would we start to see support? We're starting to see that support right there. So worth noting. NASDAQ, similar readings. Certainly nothing that's different. It looks a little bit softer from the DSE standpoint. We're having a strong move of green coming back up. So we would expect to look for that thing open. It didn't take long, but over the weekend, probably most people never even heard the news or paid any attention to it, but the continued reduction of natural gas flows to Germany and elsewhere really have, in effect, closed their businesses, and the Eurozone is in for a major shock as they can't afford the increases in price with the reduction of supply, and it's caused a massive skyrocketing. This is going to have a massive ripple effect throughout the EU, and as I've said, from the 120 range that we would break par, and the central banks, every time we get to that 103.8 range, they were in there heavy, but at a certain point, it just becomes too much. And so, this is where we start to then look, is there a cascading effect in the West? You're not going to have the similar kind of things, but the self-imposed restrictions on oil production there aren't helping anything. That certainly added several more millions of barrels a day. Would have certainly eased all of this crisis, but it just isn't the policy. So gold, from that standpoint, weak because it suggests that there, despite the fact that oil is higher, there's this belief that there's going to be this strong deflationary pressure coming in towards the later part of the year. But that's really kind of speculative. Oil is still trading over 105, been in near the 110 earlier. This puts an enormous price strain on things. You're not going to see price deceleration, particularly in food and the other things that matter for people. So this is going to potentially lead to a flight of capital out of markets towards safety, particularly if there's an expectation that the Fed is going to become less aggressive very quickly. Not a bad point to begin treasury investment. Still, it's a losing proposition, but it's a safe one comparative to what we've seen with market moves. Of course, Bitcoin has struggled a bit, but above that 18.9 drop that we hit, there was some strong intention to get back, and I think that pressures to push back towards that 20, but if it doesn't get over the 20, it becomes problematic because that becomes significant resistance, and then I think you look for the next lows down towards 16, and from there 13, and so on. So significant. And one of my favorites here from the ETH, showing the way it just beautifully trades with the algo is so nice. This is what it looked like from a 50K standpoint. Buying the up move was nice. Turning that around from an intraday standpoint, this goes all the way back to last week, and it was just quite nice up and down, but every time we get the sales, we're still filling back into all these same positive extremes that existed before. And you can see each time we hit these dips of the magenta below the 25, together with the white spike. Could have even done it a little bit earlier on the previous one, but it was a little bit less strong. And here you already started to see the blue NDI starting to fade on it and become stronger. Literally by the next bar, you can see that it had crossed below, and then that led to this dip. And then slowly, as things turn around, we get the turnaround signal beginning just under the 50. And for me, that was one of those where once it reaches the 50 and gets over there, then if I cover that, you're ready to flip to the other side of it. And sure enough, it produced a nice rally. And then after hours futures, because these were positive extremes, going right back to, well, just underneath the previous one at the 796, sure enough, we came right back to it in the post-market trade. And then they shot it back up again to try and wicked shorts and filled it right back in to take care of the bulls that started. So everyone gets their hat handed to them if they can't see what's coming. And that's the beauty of it. That's exactly the way they love to work it. So that's all good stuff. I think the economic conditions and where those forecasts lead for various parties is really going to start dictating where the market flows. This typically should be a time period where a lot of money flows in. So the question would be, will it? And are people going to continue to scale back after their 4th of July? Whether or not they recognized how expensive things have gotten, or if it's all absorbable. There is that possibility that people can handle it, and it's not going to be catastrophic, but only for the lower portion of the scale. So we will see how that plays out. As always, you can look for me in the Skype chat, and I will update you on new program updates. So we'll get those out as soon as possible. As always, trade well. We'll talk to you later.